So I'm trying to give you tips on how to make this thing work better. The reason diet and food plays a significant part in making the semen retention easier is because of the energy it takes to digest certain foods. Now, you got to be sensitive enough. It kind of surprised me. Everything surprised me back in the day. I just assumed everybody knew everything I did. You know, now there's a lot of stuff I didn't know and still don't know. I really don't know anything except about spirituality and semen retention, to be honest with you. Everything else, I just don't know. But I was under the impression that people knew, like when they ate something, if they had dinner or lunch or breakfast or ate any kind of food, they'd know how the foods feel. But I realized a lot of people don't. They could eat hot dogs and nachos and pizza every day, and they'd say they don't notice any difference, you know? So, do you know the difference when you eat certain foods, how that makes you feel? Do you know if it makes you feel kind of more sluggish and dull? Because if it does, if you're more sluggish and dull, you're going to be more prone to relapsing. See, diet and semen retention go together. The yogis have always known that. The easier to digest, less heavy foods, I'm gonna feel lighter. Like, do you notice which foods make you feel lighter and which foods make you feel heavier? Do you notice how the foods affect your mind and your thoughts? Do you notice how the food that you eat affects your emotions? Do you notice how the food that you eat affects your semen retention practice? You got to notice this stuff. The reason I don't make diet, I don't have a diet niche, is because diet's just too subjective. Just too much. It's very individual, and even in that individual, it's subject to change and will change. You can't have a dogmatic concept about diet and say, I'm going to be raw forever. I'm going to be fruitarian forever. You know? It just doesn't work. Life, intuition dictates what you should eat at any given time. Now, to complicate things more is it's not complicated for intuition though. This is the thing. We gotta really start to pay attention to the difference and discern when is intuition talking, when is the mind talking. This is your saving grace. We all have different constitutions. Like some people, they need to be more grounded. So then heavier foods feel better for them. The problem is, which heavier foods are you eating though? If you're eating a bunch of heavy meat and dairy and grains, for example, as opposed to like heavier natural fatty foods, avocados, you can even have cheese and grains, but it has to be like, you got to balance it out. You got to know how to do this stuff. Like I can have a little cheese, for example, and a vegan piece of bread at night for grounding. So then I sleep good. But see, if I have a big sandwich and a bunch of cheese, then it doesn't work. So you gotta know what you're doing. And then during the day, I don't eat any of that. I just live off of tonics and fruits and coconut water, and that's just what I do. So I'm, because I don't like, when I eat a meal, I feel the consequences more than others. My nervous system's more sensitive. I don't like eating. I wish I could just stop eating. I mean, it does, I'm exaggerating for illustrative purposes. I don't suffer when I eat, but I'm saying I notice the difference. I can feel the life force being used to digest this food. And I'm like, I don't want to use my life force on that. I just want to be full on all the time. So it's cool though, because I've found the right diet and the foods to eat that don't take too much life force away. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. When you eat in a way that doesn't take much life force from you, number one, see, heavier foods make the energy go down. Your life force starts to go down. It gets into the sex center. You're more prone to acting out. The lighter foods, the energy doesn't go down like that. So then you have more control. You have more power. If a thought comes and tells you to go act out, You're like, nah, man, get away. Like, I'm going to enjoy my full onness. Because you can't be full on if you act out. You go back down. So these foods, these heavier foods, you got to pay attention to what's heavy for you and what's not. So then you can start to really take control of your life. Your inner guru, teacher, gets activated. It starts to guide you and tell you. Sometimes we need an external teacher in the meantime to help that activation. I can play that role. Back to the constitutions. So some people, they need to be more grounded. To use Ayurvedic language, they're more Vata type. They're more air ether element. Air ether element means they're, just airy. Like you meet some people like that. They're just mind's very busy and they're restless and Then you can meet the opposite, which is the Kapha type. To use Ayurvedic language, look online. You can check this stuff out. They're already grounded because they're full of earth element. These people are usually heavier, a little more weight. They're just more they can watch TV all day. They're just they're more prone to dullness, etc. Those people, they could live off of fruits and vegetables more easy. So they don't have a problem with being grounded. They go the other way. They become kind of just dull really easy. So if they're eating a bunch of heavy foods, on top of the fact they're already heavy by nature, that's a problem. They need to go the other way. They need to eat, like they don't need any meat or grains or dairy at all. Like I said, they could live off of probably just fruits and vegetables and even fast, once a week or something. Whereas the air ether element, the people that have fast metabolism and they need to be grounded, they need to eat heavier foods. But you got to eat the right heavier foods. That's my point. But before you do that, you got to realize how this affects your semen retention practice and how it affects your body and everything else. If you can't recognize that, I don't know. Pray to God to help you recognize that. Because you got to have some, starting point, some reference point. And so this is a good tip, though. This is what can help make the semen retention practice easier, for sure. And also when we eat, these heavier foods, especially animal products, there's a lot of steroids in these animals. I'm not about dogma or anything like that. I'm just talking just very practical. And these animals, they're pumped full out of epinephrine and adrenaline, and especially if they get killed, they're scared. All that energy gets into the meat. So when we eat that also it resonates with our animal nature. Sex instinct is it's an animalistic instinct. You see, so then that frequency from that meat, it's corresponding with that, and then the sex desires can be stronger. A vegetarian diet for sure is going to make semen retention easier. Now some people argue, no, but I want my meat. And yeah, man, eat your meat. Like, it's not a big deal. But just feel if these words apply to you. If you feel like it's making it more difficult, the semen retention practice, then make a change. That's all I'm saying. It's not a big deal. I don't care where anybody eats, I'm going to quit eating. Next life, I'm going to be breatharian. I don't like food. See,